Well, I find this fascinating. I wrote a title and a blurb before I took my granddaughter to school earlier today. And when I came back, there was more that went right along with the subject from another person on my Facebook page. But I wrote the blurb in response actually to my son, the title of which is Determining What is True. Belief in anything does not make it true. How could it when there are so many contradictory beliefs claiming to be true? To me, there are fundamental concepts without which nothing makes sense. If there is no first cause creator, or worse, if there is one that doesn't give a damn, then for me, life has no meaning. I do not intend to argue with those who see it differently. I simply cannot live my life with no meaning. And if meaning is constantly changing, there is no solid foundation upon which to stand. Hopefully, truth will become obvious at some point, which I'd like to see in my lifetime. If that doesn't happen, I feel I have lived my entire life in vain. As I said, I'm going to actually flip over, which means I'm not going to see myself on camera. I'm going to flip over to the comments from what's the guy's name? Matt Garrett. He who wrote, "I am so confused," or so I am confused. Last time we talked, and I don't ever remember talking to him, you said you believe religion's version of God. Now you don't. And I responded, I haven't believed in religion's God for a long time. How could I when religions don't even agree? And he said, I'm pretty sure you told me in a previous post that you believe that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. And I don't have them in the same order he wrote them in. Immortal being. Isn't that religion's definition for God? Now, I'm not going to read, there's a bunch more comments back and forth, so finally I just said enough. And then I ended, he came back even after I said enough and saying the truth hurts. And I said I had chosen my topic and wrote my blurb before your comments appeared. There is no point in arguing with you, my son, or anyone else with other viewpoints. It's an exercise in futility that goes nowhere. And now I go back to hopefully I can find it. Yeah, here it is. There's no point, there's no way that I or anybody else is going to win an argument on this subject or any other subject of contradictory opinion. We each are entitled at this point to our own opinion. We probably always have been entitled to our own opinion. Whether we've exercised it or not, there are people that still think. And there are people that still think outside the box constructed by those who want to make thinking uniform and conforming to their viewpoint of they're the boss and we're the ones that have to do what we're told. I will never be in that box. And I think there's an awful lot of other people that will not as well. And I support everyone's right to do the best he or she can in determining for themselves what is true. We each have to do that. And they're not going to, hopefully, if you're a growing person, your idea of truth is going to expand as you grow and consider different viewpoints and different ideas. If you're one of the people who believes that's what I was taught when I was a kid, and now I'm 80 years old and I still believe it, you haven't grown at all. You've stagnated as far as I'm concerned. Now, you may call that growth, but I don't. If you were born, what was it my grandfather said once? Not my grandfather, my step-grandfather. He married my grandmother after her husband, my grandfather, my actual biological grandfather, died. but he said, I think he said, I was born a Methodist and I'll die a Methodist. I have nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'm going to a Methodist church regularly now. I have nothing wrong with Methodist churches or Hindu services or Buddhist and I was going to the Jewish synagogue. And that was one of the things that came up in this comment with this other gentleman that I mentioned earlier. He said, you didn't want to, something about the Jewish rabbi and the comments that I had made in regard to pulling back from the church. Again, I'm not going to stand in a congregation and try to buck heads with somebody. I'm not going to do it. It's useless. It doesn't go anywhere. If he wants to believe that the Jews are the right ones, and I have a very good friend who has actually been providing different things throughout my life, throughout the last several years for me, and she's very much involved in that Messianic congregation, Messianic Jewish congregation, which is why I went there in the beginning. She invited me, and I started going, and I went for 2 months till he preached the sermon that he was not going. I didn't want to discuss anything that had a variance to the idea that the Bible is the Word of God, and there's no variation. The Bible contains words from God. I've said that all along. Absolutely. And as far as God being omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, if God doesn't have those qualities, he's not God. Those are simply qualities of something that is beyond where I am currently in my own consciousness. And so I attribute that, I put a label on it, it's called God. God has those qualities, those particular qualities. But as far as knowing the truth, I cannot swear up and down that I'm right, and if you have a different opinion, you're wrong. But neither do you have the right to try to convince me that I'm wrong. We're each doing the best we can, and I'm going to leave it at that. I will say that it's obvious to me that those that are running the world currently, especially in the United States, but it's not just the United States, it's the Illuminati or whatever label you want to put on them, these assholes that think that they have the right to dominate the rest of human culture and eliminate all of the useless eaters, as I said in a previous video, and I'm sure more than one previous video. They want to eliminate everyone that can't be managed. In other words, they only want a brainwashed populace that goes along with their game plan. And that's 500 million people, which means they've got to get rid of about 7 billion people, which is why they do things that are so ridiculous, why they have laws and stuff that they're putting in place that make it a crime to even grow your own food or to dig your own well, because they want to be able to contaminate everything. And everything that they touch, they do contaminate, whether it's an idea or a physical substance or a food or a medicine. Everything that they touch is contaminated because they have a purpose that is not true. The not true thing is that they have the right to dominate the world, that they can play God with impunity. No, they can't. That's my belief. That's my thought. Am I right or wrong? I can't prove it. Ultimately, it has to be proven of its own accord. And that's why I continue to call on the Creator, whatever the Creator is, to bring whatever force, whether it's the force of reason or some other type of force that I don't even know about, but to bring justice to a planet, and not just a planet, but throughout the universe, to bring truth and justice, love and mercy. Because without these, there's no reason for me to be alive, and as far as I'm concerned, for no one else to be alive either. But that's an opinion. Thank you for listening, and namaste.